Hey everyone, let's jump right into this. Think back to your school days for a second. You remember naming your group project, right? You probably just slapped something like Group 4's Lemonade Stand on a manila folder and called it a day. Well, today, we're completely reframing that whole perspective. We're going to look at this not as some generic afterthought, but as a crucial, deeply foundational exercise that literally sets the stage for everything that follows. So get comfortable, because we're about to look closely at the true weight of a name.
It really comes down to this central dilemma. What exactly is in a student business name? Seriously, I want you to genuinely ask yourself this. When a student sits down in a classroom to build a mock company, is the name they choose just a quick placeholder for a class assignment? Is it just, a few words thrown onto the top of a grading rubric just so the teacher knows whose project is whose? Or is it something much, much more significant? We are totally challenging the assumption that student work is merely practice, and we're exploring how the decisions made in these early stages carry genuine conceptual weight.
To really grasp this, we turn directly to our source material today, the strategic value of student business names. Just let those words sink in for a moment. Look at how this exact title elevates a common, everyday school task to a level of high-level strategy. The source doesn't call it how to name a school project or fun ideas for business class. It explicitly uses the words strategic and value. And by choosing those precise words, it forces us to treat the student experience with the exact same gravity and intellectual rigor that we'd apply to a Fortune 500 boardroom. It absolutely changes the paradigm.
Section 1. Unpacking value. Strategic importance. Let's get into it.
Okay, let's dive into this definition. When the source pairs the word strategic with value in the context of a student business, it's defining a very specific kind of worth. Strategic value is the deliberate planning and inherent worth attached to foundational business decisions, meaning the name isn't random. A strategic choice requires foresight, right? It asks the student to consider their audience, their product's identity, and their long-term goals, yes, even within the confines of a semester-long class. The value here is the foundational understanding that the student actually gains. It's the realization that a name is a powerful asset. It's a tool that does heavy lifting for a brand's identity right from the starting line.
To make this even clearer, let's look at a comparison. A basic label is calling your project Bob's Mowing. I mean, sure, it tells people what it is, but frankly, it puts them to sleep. But a strategic name, as our source material implies, is calling it the Lawn Rangers. See the difference? It carries intent, tone, and an immediate unique selling proposition. The source is basically arguing that when students are pushed to move from a basic label to a strategic name, they're no longer just students completing a worksheet. Actually, scratch that. They're stepping up to act as true architects of a business identity.
Section 2. Why students? The unique sandbox.
And this brilliantly illustrates why our text deliberately isolates school students. The school is a highly unique learning sandbox. It's a place where the stakes are technically low when it comes to actual financial ruin, but intellectually, the stakes for cognitive development are incredibly high. By placing strategic value into the school student context, the source is highlighting the exact moment a young mind is first introduced to the mechanics of commerce and identity.
Let's break down the dynamics of this specific demographic. First up, the school environment. This provides a structured, guided space for peer experimentation. Second, first business decisions. For a lot of these school students, choosing this name is literally their very first strategic business decision. It's the first time they've ever been asked to conceptualize a brand out of thin air. And third, learning strategic importance. Because it's their first decision, the lessons learned here imprint deeply. Think about it. If they learn that a name is just a label, they carry that bad habit forward. But if they learn the strategic value now, right here in this academic exercise, it becomes a uniquely critical foundation for whenever they become future entrepreneurs out in the real world.
Section 3. The core importance. Mastering the practice.
Now, what's really interesting about this concept is the focus on the word importance. The source text specifically points out the importance of business names. Grasping this isn't just about coming up with a clever pun or a word that sounds good to the ear. No, it's about mastering a foundational business practice. The source tells us that recognizing this importance is a fundamental educational threshold. Once a student truly understands that the name is the first touchpoint of their entire enterprise, everything changes. They begin to view the rest of their business plan, the marketing, the finances, the operations, through a lens of deliberate, cohesive strategy.
Let's look at how this actually builds across the student's journey, following the exact cognitive path our source material suggests. Step 1. The student assignment. This is the starting line. The teacher hands out the syllabus, and it looks like a standard, everyday task. Step 2. The strategic choice. Now, this is the inflection point we've been talking about. The student applies those concepts of value and deliberate planning. They don't just pick a name, they engineer one. And then step 3, grasping the importance. This is the ultimate educational outcome. By navigating step 2, they organically arrive at step 3. They fundamentally internalize the importance of a business identity. They transform what was a simple school task into a profound lesson in commercial strategy. It's a real game changer.
Section 4. Final thoughts on naming. Cohesive lessons.
So the crucial point is summarized perfectly by this final phrase: importance of business names for school students. By viewing this phrase through the lens of everything we've just unpacked together, we can see the true depth behind what initially seemed like a pretty simple, straightforward sentence. It's not just a description of a classroom activity, it's a declaration. It declares that the early academic exercises we ask students to perform are the very crucibles where strategic business thinking is forged. Recognizing this importance honors the student's potential, and it completely validates the educational process.
I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. Whether you are a student right now, an educator, or maybe a future entrepreneur looking back at your foundations, is your business name just a label, or is it your very first strategic decision? I challenge you to completely rethink how you approach your next project, your next idea, or your next assignment. Don't miss out on the incredible opportunity to build foundational value right from the very first word. Thank you so much for joining me to explore this topic. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I'll catch you next time.